What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I'm a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead as always. And thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for rocking with me day after day, week after week. I so appreciate everybody who watched the forecast. If you want to go get a reading at zambonifunk.com, you will be delighted with all of the options you have there. But we've got a 10-minute option that is very much like these weeklies. We've got 60 or 30 minutes, which will be a Zoom call. We can talk about stuff. There's music there. There's a podcast there. Very exciting. We are on the podcast, me and delicious Brian Wilkins, who is a geomancer. We have decided that we'll take questions. And so we're going to start doing a reading for somebody. We'll do a little lottery and then do a reading. So if you want to go and get your chart read or something like this, you have a question that for the heavens or for the earth in the case of geomancy, then go to zambonifunk.com/store and there's like a little free option there that you can look into and get into that. That'll be super fun. So check that out. Let's get to talking about the astrology of the week ahead, because there is plenty to talk about and none of this shit is gonna make sense. So happy new moon. We've got a new moon in Leo today. That is honestly, I kind of like this new moon in Leo. It looks a little bit on mundane or like societal level, like it might be some kind of last grasp for power from the ruling sector, you know what I mean? From the emperors and the famous faces and all this. We could think about the sun in Leo as being associated with kingly figures or the rulership in some kind of the ruling class, right? The ones whose faces you know and who sort of decry things to the people, this sort of stuff, right? The new moon there in Leo is the sun and the moon conjunct, and it is making a sextile to, it's separating from a sextile to Mars in Gemini, and it was applying to a sextile to Jupiter there in Gemini. And so those two together, Mars and Jupiter, look very much like victory a lot of times, like they're sort of wants to charge in and win things. And so this looks like it wants to be empowering to the Leo stuff, to the sun things, to that whole enterprise of shining brightly and being the star of the show, this kind of thing. This new moon looks like it wants to get moving back in that direction, especially since, historically we've seen a little bit of recession as far as faith in that kind of enterprise and the amount of money that movies make and all of this kind of thing, right? If we're thinking silver screen, we're thinking about excitement to be seen and all of this kind of stuff, star of the show, then that has been less and less valuable for the last few years here. And especially in recent times, we've really seen the idea of celebrity has fallen off in some kind of way. And so to see this new moon with those Gemini planets looks like it wants to, especially since it's also opposed to Pluto and Aquarius, and Pluto and Aquarius this is the new Pluto, the new sort of era of the future, and maybe there's a certain kind of horror core about the future also, but there's something powerful about Pluto. And the sun in Leo is very much trying to go for a little bit stronger power and this kind of thing. And so this new moon in Leo does look like an opportunity, especially if you are interested in glamour or making yourself more marketable or delicious to look at or be at the party and these kinds of things, those sorts of things look like there's a lot of potential here. And I like it on the individual level. I think that there's a lot of potential for making things work at the kind of personal or individual level here, even though I think societally it looks like it wants to be a little bit kind of dicey. But so that's happening. And then at the same time, we can see that Venus is moving into Virgo, and there at the very beginning of Virgo, Mercury, who rules Virgo and is exalted in Virgo, is also stationing retrograde. So Venus is fallen in Virgo. Venus in Virgo, the thing that I always say every year when Venus in Virgo comes around is I talk about that Beyonce song, Pretty Hurts. It is a song about noticing one's own flaws and that's the only thing that you can see. Even if you look like Beyonce, then you look like a goddamn model all the time, flawless. I woke up like this, right? but all you can see is like how terrible you are, right? Venus in Virgo sometimes gets to feeling this way, is very good at noticing the faults and the problems and things. I always mention that this is very good for revision and review and focusing in on the details that need to be changed, especially in the sense of like copy editing or quality control, this sort of stuff, making sure that stuff is appropriately done before getting to publication. Venus in Virgo is excellent at that sort of thing, but can sometimes be a little bit of a problem when it comes to, like sometimes the perfect can become the enemy of the good with Venus in Virgo. And so this and especially if we're looking at if we're looking at like Mercury in Virgo also, and so Mercury is stationing retrograde there, right? And so Mercury retrograde is going to be very much, like Mercury is the transportation planet or the communication and this kind of thing, moving backwards for the retrograde. That's likely to be some kind of like, review and reevaluation and this sort of thing, especially around the information, around the understanding of things. That's going to be like a little weird in some kind of way. And especially there with that Venus, it looks like really focusing in on things and being super confused about it. Like, this doesn't actually make that much sense. I really like the analogy of like a presidential assassination, right? Because then that's how you get like super weird stuff around like the magic bullet and stuff like this. You know what I mean? Like this doesn't really add up, and the FBI is like, don't worry about that. And you're like, but it doesn't make any sense. And they're like, and that's just all you get. So, and we can see this going on with the like Trump assassination attempt and all the rest of that. Like that kind of dynamic looks very much like what we're dealing with here, especially since we've got loud and raucous things happening there in Gemini with that Mars and Jupiter. That typically wants to charge on to victory, but that is under a square from Saturn in Pisces. Now, Saturn in Pisces is not in position to harm that Sun in Leo. So the Sun in Leo is like able to do Sun in Leo things with a certain amount of verve and vigor and stuff like that. But which is empowered by the stuff in Gemini, but that stuff in Gemini is really like under some pressure when it comes to that Saturn in Pisces. So Saturn in Pisces is, in position to put the brakes on things, is in position to create obstacles and boundaries and stuff like this. That Saturn in Pisces is also opposite to Venus in Virgo. So as Venus moves into Virgo, then we're going to start to see this like little nitpicky, like, I'm not sure about these details going on. And like that is generating confusion, especially because the information is like, I got to turn around and like check this out another time because this ain't it. And then in doing that, then there's a lot of friction going on. There's like a kind of like insistence on the sort of like official story, the official narrative that as given to us by the like ruling elite who is like shining so brightly and like, don't you want to listen to me? And then there's a certain sense of like, I don't know if I really buy this. Do you buy this? I don't really know, because like I don't know what's true, but I don't think that is. And so there's like a lot. So what we're looking at is a lot of confusion and calamity, especially since we are moving into like this big T square in Virgo. We've got Venus in Virgo opposite to Saturn in Pisces. Both of these are making a square to Jupiter and Mars in Gemini. This looks like it's super tense, a lot of conflict, a lot of difficulty wants to go on. And this is building up. We're not going to see the peak of that until next week. And so we're just sort of like in a position now where things are like getting weird and it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. And that Venus is going to conjoin Mercury. So Mercury has turned around and is moving backwards, and Venus is going to come up and catch that Mercury there for a second. And so this is going to be really good for maybe like looking too hard at the wrong details, looking at things that like aren't really the main thing. And so Jupiter is typically the one that sort of like brings the big picture into like, okay, yes, the trees, but also the forest, you guys. But Jupiter is currently in Gemini, in detriment, not super comfortable, also with a couple of malefics. So that big picture piece is unlikely to take place here. So it's a good time to don't forget to slow down, don't forget to breathe, and remember your long